Mark Zuckerberg is looked up to in Silicon Valley as a visionary.
You seem to be replacing Larry and Sergey as the people out here who everyone's talking about. You're just staring at me.
Is that a question?
Yeah.
So I stumbled on this really cool video about Facebook. Oh my God, it's so cute. Mark Zuckerberg is like 23 in this video. Right now he's like 37, so this video is old. And they kind of like, anyway, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to review it. They kind of bring up some things that like are real that still affect Facebook till today. So it's interesting that those problems arose in 2006 and nothing was done about it. All right, let's watch. Let us watch from the top.
60 minutes. Rewind.
Are you on Facebook yet? The site is up to 60 million users so far,
2008, how cute.
with a projection of 200 million by the end of the year. If you're not on Facebook, here's how it works. You set up a profile page with details about yourself, and then decide who gets to see it. Friends use their pages to share personal news, exchange photos, team up on political causes, or just play long-distance Scrabble. It can be a useful tool or an addictive waste of time. Either way, Facebook is having a dramatic impact on the World Wide Web.
World Wide Web. Who says that? Oh my God. Wow, this video is dated.
It's estimated to be worth $15 billion. Sitting atop this growing company, directing an internet revolution, is a young, geeky computer programmer who created the site only 4 years ago.
This is the face of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, the mogul who's guiding its extraordinary growth.
I wouldn't call him a geek, I'd call him a nerd.
What everyone wants to know is he old enough to be running a company some people say is the biggest thing since Google?
Tell everyone how old you are.
I'm 23 right now. So,
And you're running this huge company.
well, it's
You're
not that big.
23.
It's not that big. It's probably going to be the biggest company in the world soon.
And here he was helping me set up my own Facebook page with a profile of my likes and dislikes.
Guess what my favorite TV show is?
I can't.
All right, put 60 minutes there.
Next, we added my friends, family, that's my son-in-law, old classmates. Within a few minutes, I got a friend request. Here's a guy I haven't talked to in 2 years, and I'm so thrilled to hear from him. Mark. This is why so many find the site addictive. In a world with no cell phone or email directories, Facebook has become a way to find lost friends.
Right? I mean, it used to be the case, like, you'd switch jobs, and then maybe you wouldn't keep in touch with all the people that
Right.
you knew from that old job, just because it was too hard. But one of the things that Facebook does is it makes it really easy to just stay in touch with all these people.
Of course, if someone tries to friend you, you can ignore them. And privacy settings allow you to deny access to your page, say, to your boss or your parents.
Good afternoon, Facebook. How may I help you?
Facebook headquarters in downtown Palo Alto looks like a dorm room. The 400 employees who get free food and laundry show up late, stay late, and
Oh my God, look how tiny it is. Humble beginnings, man. But they had money here. But compared to what their office looks like now.
party really late. Zuckerberg, who's made the cover of Newsweek and is reportedly worth $3 billion, sits at a desk like the other software engineers writing computer code.
Have you changed your lifestyle? You don't look like you're buying really expensive clothes.
No, I'm not buying really expensive clothes.
Are you
No.
buying things? Are you buying things that you would
No, I have a little, like, one-bedroom apartment with a mattress on the floor. That's where I live.
It's almost like a Disney movie.
Right, it is.
23-year-old kid takes over a
Right.
major company.
Right. Or
Kara Swisher, who used to write about Silicon Valley for the Wall Street Journal, and now
I love it. I love like the humble billionaire, you know. And I know like in my videos I probably come hard on Mark Zuckerberg, but I think he's a very inspiration. He really inspires me. I think he's a great, intelligent, very accomplished individual, very creative. As much as people might say, like, he stole everything, but no, it takes creativity to be able to steal. Like, what did they say? Great artists steal? Yeah, it takes a lot of creativity to steal people's ideas and put it into one platform and make it its own unique thing. And it takes a lot of creativity to accumulate 2 billion users on your site. That takes creativity. But anyway, let's keep going.
Now has a blog, All Things Digital, has called him the toddler CEO.
I think it's funny because we, back in the day, this was like a weird thing, thinking about someone that's like 23 being in charge of it wasn't normal for that to happen. I mean, I think Bill Gates was young too, and so was Steve Jobs. But really, it's just tech that you see these like overnight billionaires, and I guess entertainment as well. But this is a serious company. It's a serious tech company, and to have these young kids, it was just not like normal. Now, like, we're normal, like, we've normalized seeing crypto millionaires that are so young and young billionaires all over the place. But back then it was really scarce. It was really rare. And that's why it's like, this is so much more impactful, what she's saying.
What do you think it's done to him as a person to be 23 years old?
I think it's hard. I think when all of a sudden you're the smartest person in the world and you're the meal ticket for everybody, and this is the big hit. This is the new Google at this point. And so Mark is under a lot of pressure because everybody wants something from him.
Like the founders of Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, Mark Zuckerberg is looked up to in Silicon Valley as a visionary.
You seem to be replacing Larry and Sergey as the people out here who everyone's talking about. You're just staring at me.
Is that a question?
Yeah.
We were warned that he can be awkward and reluctant to talk about himself. So we turned for help to his Facebook page, which says he's a Harvard alum.
You're not a Harvard alum.
That's true. We don't have a setting for dropout. So
He dropped out of Harvard in 2004, where he was intending to study psychology. His mom is a psychiatrist. Here she is on Facebook. His dad's a dentist. Mark was a computer whiz early on, writing software in 6th grade. In his second year at Harvard, he built a site where students could rate or berate the looks of classmates through ID photos he lifted off Harvard's computers.
You got into deep trouble from this little prank.
yeah. Well, Harvard was just not happy that I was using their images, and
Yeah, well, they said you hacked.
Mm-hmm.
Did they punish you?
yeah, it was put on some sort of I don't know, what do you call it?
Probation?
Sure.
Soon thereafter, he and his 2 roommates created an online version of the Harvard Student Directory where kids could message each other. They called it the Facebook and launched it from their dorm room. Within 4 months, they had expanded to 40 colleges and over the summer moved to Palo Alto. But Mark had done code writing for some upperclassmen with a similar idea, and they have filed a lawsuit.
3 Harvard students are suing you, claiming that you stole their idea for Facebook.
Well, I mean, we know that we didn't steal any ideas or code, so we're just kind of waiting until that comes out in court.
In the lawsuit, they claim that you were duplicitous. Are you worried about it?
No, I don't really spend a whole lot of my time worrying about that. I mean, we have lawyers at the company who deal with that stuff, and it's not a huge concern.
That is such an impactful line for any sort of entrepreneur that's starting out. You get your first lawsuit. It's such an impactful line because, like, you could feel overwhelmed. You could be shocked. You could feel like the world is tumbling down on you. You could just feel terrified. But just know that the biggest companies in the world, they have like 300 lawsuits, ongoing lawsuits at a time. You can't be worrying about lawsuits when you're running a business. So that's the most important thing for every entrepreneur to gather from this.
I mean, probably about half my time is spent on business operation type stuff.
Despite his young age, Zuckerberg seems to have made one savvy business decision after the next. He expanded access to Facebook from college students to high schoolers, then in 2006 to adults, his fastest growing demographic. Now he's inviting everyone on the site to create new software and pocket the profits themselves. It's a way to keep the next big thing on Facebook. New programs emerge daily, like Facebook Scrabble.
I actually have a couple games going on now with my grandparents. So they got on Facebook and we started playing Scrabble together.
So Facebook is changing the way we communicate with our friends and with our grandparents.
Yeah, it was around 2007 that they start. I mean, Facebook had all these random apps on it. So kind of think about like Apple, and this is before Apple, which is funny. This is before smartphones, but they had like they had these apps on Facebook that they had rolled out, and I guess once the iPhone came out in the fall of 2007, all of that sort of like disappeared. They dominated that app space.
It's also changing politics. Every major candidate has a page. Zuckerberg says there seem to be more Republicans on the site than Democrats, and among them, Barack Obama, with his young person's following, is hugely popular. Hillary Clinton is hugely unpopular. You know, it used to be first you went on Face the Nation if you were a candidate. Then, well, no, you went on Letterman. Now it seems the candidates have to be on Facebook. Are you changing the way candidates are running for president?
Well, I think because politicians can communicate with tens of thousands of people at the same time, it's pretty effective for them in campaigning.
So interesting, because that is such a line right there. That's exactly what Facebook has done. So these are all microcosms of what actually happened in the future, because we think about Cambridge Analytica and how Facebook directly affected the US elections in 2016, right? This is just telling that like these questions that she's asking, we saw increments of what Facebook was gonna become.
Facebook is growing so quickly, there's talk of it becoming a giant slayer. Is Facebook a challenge to Google?
These questions are great questions. Of course it is. And right now, I mean, I think they've always kind of been competing. But right now, as we enter the metaverse, I think they're competing more so than ever. The difference, though, is Facebook is about community and Google is about, would I say access to information? Because it's really a search engine. And so is YouTube, all that stuff.
I think they are.
Charlene Lee, an analyst at Forrester Research, a technology consulting company, says Facebook is a threat to Google because it could become the first site people go to search. Say you want information about a family vacation in Maui. Lee says when you check Google, you could get a list of almost 200,000 hits.
Versus I can go on Facebook. I can go and ask my friends. And people will write back to me, oh, I've done things, and this is what I recommend, and knowing you and your kids, they will really like doing this. So the next time I do something very specific like that, chances are I'll probably go to Facebook.
So this is a very interesting thing that she said, and I said this in a previous video, that as Mark Zuckerberg is building the metaverse, the only ingredient that he's missing out right now is that search engine function that Facebook has never sort of tackled or never gone into that space. Not really, because Instagram is a terrible search engine, and so is Facebook. But if when he enters the metaverse, if he puts that function, he's going to go head to head with Google, which is going to be very interesting.
Which is why Yahoo offered to buy Facebook in 2006 for $1 billion in cash. Zuckerberg declined, but then Microsoft swooped in and bought 1.6% of the company for $240 million. That meant that Bill Gates valued Facebook at $15 billion, roughly the same as Ford or CBS. Some analysts say that's wildly unrealistic, since Facebook has yet to figure out how to make money off its huge audience. Is it true that you don't make that much money?
I think that's a pretty relative thing. But I mean, as a private company, we just have the advantage of not necessarily having to report to the outside world all of our financials.
That is such a great answer. Like, he's obviously media trained. That's such a great answer. When people are nosing your business and asking you how much money you make, it's not your business. That's a nice way to say that's not your business. And people assume that when you're, even as a creator, people assume that you're just going to be making money overnight. No, like it takes, first of all, you have to build your following and build trust. That could take 3 years. I mean, it's probably not going to take you 3 years to start monetizing, but it could take a while before you like build a massive following. And just to see that it took Facebook that long, it took Facebook almost 10 years or something ridiculous to be able to start monetizing when they created Facebook ads. But before that, they weren't monetizing. So if you're worried as you're a creator and you're worried about not being able to monetize yet, just have patience and persistence, because even the company that built all of this for us, they couldn't even monetize for the first 10 years of their existence. So don't stress about it. Just be persistent and find new, different, innovative ways to make money. Because ultimately, social media gives you visibility. So utilize that to monetize it. And it doesn't have to be online yet. It can be offline. So let's keep going.
He may duck the question, but there's no getting around the fact that Facebook needs to find a way to generate revenue. And so Zuckerberg is experimenting with ads, trying to cash in on his users' own recommendations.
Oh, look. So I guess Facebook ads had already existed in 2008. I did not know this. No wonder, because when I discovered Facebook ads, which was probably the first ad that I ran was in 2016, it just seemed like it was, I don't know. When I discovered Facebook Business Manager, it was like, wait a minute, what is all of this? Just seemed like it was like developed way before I was even aware of it.
Say you write on Facebook that you like a certain movie. That's turned into an ad. Or maybe you like a scarf from Bloomingdale's.
So this isn't an ad that's going to go to a lot of people. Basically, when you put that information in your profile that you bought a scarf and that you like that scarf, right? That's something that your friends might find interesting, right? So what we do is we might show that information to your friends a little bit more proactively as an ad, right? So it
But
wouldn't
with
go
me
to,
in the ad?
yeah, but that would basically be the ad.
Okay, but it's almost like an endorsement, like Michael Jordan for Nike. I become the spokesman for that ad.
Well, that's what you're doing when you're putting that information in your profile.
The real trouble started when they began using a tracking program called Beacon that monitors what you buy on over 40 websites and automatically reports it to your friends without explicit permission.
Oh my God, this is so funny because these are the same issues that Facebook still has today. User privacy and selling our data and selling our information or giving away our information without our permission.
People signed up for Facebook thinking that it was a way to just stay in touch with their friends. And now some of them feel that there's some snooping going on. Is there any concern you're turning Facebook into something much more commercial?
I actually think that this makes it less commercial. I mean, what would you rather see? A banner ad from Bloomingdale's or that one of your friends bought a scarf?
Facebook still faces this problem. How many years later? Still having this issue.
But when a Facebook user bought his wife a diamond ring online, the surprise was ruined because Beacon notified all his friends and his wife about it on Facebook. With stories like that, criticism of Beacon began to build. But Zuckerberg dug in his heels until he had a full-blown PR disaster on his hands, including petitions and bloggers writing obituaries.
Well, I guess this shows how difficult it is for a company like yours to make money through advertising and protect people's real privacy and their sense of privacy.
You know, it might take some work for us to get this exactly right. This is something that we think is going to be a really good thing.
Not a real answer to the privacy question, more like the canned response of a typical business executive.
Wow, the issues that Facebook still has today, but they've mastered it now. I won't say they mastered it, but they've figured out how to navigate it. But what I would say is, again, back to my previous point, business entrepreneurship is all about creating the right formula, the right systems, the right formula to ensure that you generate income and The reason why it's so hard to figure it out, because people don't expose their formula. As you should, especially if it took you this long to figure out a formula, why would you tell it? Why would you, disclose it to other people to replicate your formula? So business is about creating the right formula. And it's so interesting to see the history of Facebook's formula. And I hope it inspires you to have hope and to just keep creating, keep doing what you're doing, keep going. And that formula will eventually reveal itself, even if it takes 10 years. But if it takes 10 years, trust and believe, the kind of money that's going to come in is going to be a lot and insane. So let's keep going. And if it's not a lot, that means you haven't cracked the code yet. Just to add, I know some people can't wait 10 years to start making money. Make it your side hustle. It should be your side hustle, if you can't afford to do that.
There have to be ads either way because we have to make money. We have 400 employees and, we have to support all that and make a profit.
That's not my business. As a consumer on Facebook, because you have to make money, that doesn't mean I want you to use my data. That has nothing to do with me. That was a terrible answer.
But 3 big advertisers threatened to pull out, and Zuckerberg was forced to relent. He agreed to amend Beacon, making it easier for users to turn it off, and he apologized.
The story will continue after this.
So do you think that Mark failed as a leader in the Beacon
Absolutely.
fiasco?
Yes.
What do you want to call it?
Leader.
What were his mistakes?
His mistake
So harsh and dramatic. Absolutely.
was doing it. Doing it, period. His mistake was not explaining it to people. His mistake was not backing off very quickly when it was clear that it was a problem. I just feel like you see some of these mistakes they're making very early on, and you worry where the judgment is.
Is he a good CEO?
I don't know. I think he's very young.
But those around Zuckerberg say he is learning fast. He might still wear a hoodie and no socks, but he's becoming a suit as he ponders whether to take his company public this year.
This would be a good place to announce that.
I think what I can announce is that it is highly unlikely that we will go public in 2008. When going public makes sense to do, we'll do that, and maybe that's 2 years out, maybe it's 3 years out.
Do you think that your age is an asset or a liability?
There's probably a little bit of
Asset.
both, right? There are definitely elements of experience and stuff that someone who's my age wouldn't have, but there are also things that I can do that other people wouldn't necessarily be able to.
Honestly, that's the advantage of the digital era, is that being at that intersection, that age, my generation, it's exactly what he said. There are things that we're able to do that the older generations haven't, because we always had to adapt. We were born in the tape era, which evolved into the CD and DVD era, which was literally we have experienced all stages of media, and now we're going into the metaverse. So our whole digital experience has been characterized by adaptation. And so that just put us in a very unique space to understand social media as it was evolving, to understand the internet, to understand as we're going into the metaverse, because we've always had to stay on the ball. I think my most important takeaway and most important thing is I know somebody who older, much older, but decided back then, let's say in 2005, that she wasn't going to adapt to the internet. That puts you at a real bad place. How many years later? Puts you in a very terrible place. So my advice to everybody is to always stay with the times, always move, because you don't want to be 5 years behind, because if you're 5 years behind, it's going to take a lot of effort for you to figure out how to catch up. If you're 10 years behind, you're pretty much screwed because the information has changed so hard. So as I just explained, that adaptation is the way of our generation, millennials, we have to ensure that we never fall off and we continue to adapt with the changes, because the changes are coming. The changes are going to be fast, just as fast, and they're coming. So we just have to make sure that we don't snob anything and say, oh no, I'm not using I'm not wearing those Oculus goggles. I'm not doing this. Nah, if you do that, you're going to fall back because it's really going to be the way of the future and the way of the world. So move with the times. And that's how to ensure that you're not a dinosaur. Anyway, this was a great feature on Mark Zuckerberg. Very inspirational, very interesting to see that the issues that he had in Facebook back then in 2008 are exactly the same underlying issues that we're still facing today with Facebook. And it's actually interesting to know why that is the case, and there hasn't really been much development. It just seems as though maybe that's just his idea. That's just his agenda. He knows exactly what he wants out of Facebook, and it's about finding a way to be soft and to be caring and to serve your customers while still monetizing it. I think the journalist said it perfectly. Maybe I'll play that clip very quickly. But anyway, this video was very fruitful, very interesting. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. My name is Kenim, and see you next time. Peace.